Hi there everybody, it's Martin Twycross here with another talk. Today's video is an inspired address that I did at a recent online service in a Spiritualist church. The topic of the address is spiritualism, and I talk about the birth of modern spiritualism as the service was very close to Hydesville Day, and Hydesville Day falls on the 31st of March. I do hope that you enjoy the video and get lots from it. So good evening everybody, it's always a pleasure to serve my home church, Hampton Hill. It's always a joy and a pleasure to work within the church, a place that I love so much. And it's lovely to see so many of you here as well this evening. And so this evening I'm going to talk to you about a subject that's very close to my heart, a topic that I get passionate about, that is close to me, and that is spiritualism. Now some of you may know that yesterday was an important date for spiritualists, as it was Hydesville Day, and I'll come on to what that means in just a moment. But whenever people meet me and they ask me, what do you do? And I tell them I'm a medium, they say, mediumship, that's about talking to the dead, isn't it? And I tell them I'm a spiritualist, and they say, spiritualism, well, that's all about life after death, isn't it? And that's most people's understanding of spiritualism. That spiritualism is about life after death. Spiritualism is all related to an afterlife. And of course it is, to a degree. So spiritualism did begin on the 31st of March in 1848, modern spiritualism. The ability to, as spirits we've always existed, the spirit world has always existed. As mediums we've always been able to link with those in the spirit world. It didn't just suddenly happen on the 31st of March 1848. However, modern spiritualism is said to have happened on that date, with the events at Hydesville, with the Fox sisters in upstate New York. Now, I'm not going to go into it in great detail. If you want to know more about it, there's lots and lots of teachings about it you can read and hear about. But what was interesting was, on the morning of the 31st of March in 1848, Andrew Jackson Davis, who was one of the pioneers of the movement of spiritualism, often referred to as the father of spiritualism, he heard the words spoken out loud, "Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born." Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born. And when he heard those words, he had no idea really what they meant. But events that day unfolded, and the rappings that began in a house in Hydesville created a movement founded upon phenomena, founded upon intelligence, founded upon communication between discarnate spirit and us incarnate spirit in this world. So the events that happened with the Fox sisters and the Rappians, which showed an intelligence, an intelligent communication from the spirit world. And spiritualism began to grow in America and spread very rapidly, and began to spread around the world shortly thereafter. And we say that was the birth of modern spiritualism. But the key point is it was based upon facts. It was based upon observable phenomena. It was based upon intelligence. And those phenomena needed a medium. It needed a medium to happen. Whenever the Fox sisters moved from different houses, the phenomena followed them. The ability for spirit to communicate went with them. They were the mediums. That's important to recognize. And the religion of spiritualism began to spread and took off quite a lot. There was a number of people who helped spread it. Of course, I had Emma Hardinge Britton, who was mentioned on the 7 Principles, who brought forward the 7 Principles. She was another pioneer of our religion of spiritualism, and she did a great deal to help promote spiritualism. And so spiritualism spread, and it gained a foothold, and it took a lot of time and effort and energy for it to be recognized, for it to spread, for the religion of spiritualism to achieve recognition. We often talked about the cenotaph, that we always wanted representation of spiritualism at the cenotaph ceremony on Remembrance Sunday. And finally we have that. That's another form of recognition. So spiritualism, it didn't just suddenly appear. It was the intelligence of the spirit world to enable it to become manifest. And we have a great number of pioneers, a great number of workers for Spirit who worked very hard to ensure that the religion became a religion, that mediumship, which is the basis of our religion, became a legal reality. Now, just recently we had the 100th, the centenary of our church. Our church was founded in October 1919, October 1919. And in 2019 we had the 100-year centenary of Hampton Hill Spiritualist Church. But back then, Spiritualism wasn't necessarily easily accepted by everybody. The very first meeting of the church was actually known as the Hampton Hill Spiritualist Society. But the very first meeting of the church was picketed out by local city missionaries, by local Christian missionaries who didn't want this terrible thing to happen on their doorstep. So they blocked the medium from working at the very first service. Thankfully, mediums like myself, we're now able to work now, 100 years later. But for a while, it wasn't the case. And at that time, mediumship was illegal in the UK. At that time, mediumship was not allowed, and if you did mediumship, you would run the gauntlet, not only of abuse, not only of people trying to stop you working, but also of being the risk of being arrested, the risk of being fined, and even the risk of being jailed. And a number of our mediums were sent to prison and jailed for following their religion. And many religions talk about an afterlife, but for me, the thing that strikes me about spiritualism is that day in, day out within our churches, we demonstrate survival. Mediums work upon platforms, whether those are in person or virtual, like the Zoom platform, and we demonstrate survival. We bring forward evidence that your loved ones survive within the spirit world. For me, when I first came to Spiritualism in 2001, almost 20 years ago, I was struck by how straightforward, simple and common sense it was. For me, it was the most amazing thing to find. And it was the best kept religious secret. How come in my life this had not been taught to me? How come in my life people had not explained to me that there was an afterlife, that mediums could connect, that we could connect with our loved ones in spirit, that they live on? It's powerful. And the spirit world wants us to know the reality of mediumship. But not just to let us know that our loved ones survive, not just to let us know that our loved ones live on. For yes, that brings a great deal of comfort to the bereaved indeed. Yes, that helps us with our understanding. But the thing is, one day we're all going to take our transition to spirit, whether we like it or not. If anyone knows a reason why you can stay here without going to spirit, let me know. Unless you found a philosopher's stone or some weird and wonderful secret, one day we will all face that remarkable journey where we step across the threshold and leave behind the physical body, when we move on to that next stage of this wonderful journey. All of us will discover the reality of life after death. Life after death is a reality. Many religions speak of it. As spiritualists, we demonstrate it through mediumship. But it's a reality that we will all find out for ourselves one day anyway. Why do we need to know about it in advance? Why did Spirit want us to know the reality when modern spiritualism was created on the 31st of March 1848? Why? What was the point? For me, the point was to awaken us. The point was for us to understand in this life that there's life after death. For us to understand in this life that we are indeed eternal. For us to have that knowledge now, not when we reach the spirit world. My father, he was not very religious at all. And when I came to spiritualism in 2001, following the passing of my mother, he didn't believe it. And sometimes my mum would come forward with a message for him, and I'd say, Dad, I've got a message for you from Mum. And he'd say, son, I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in any of that mumbo jumbo you're interested in. I'm not interested in any of that strange religion you belong to. He didn't want to know. And I remember he received all this information when he was in hospital ill from the Jehovah's Witnesses. They gave him a great big pile of information. And I said, you probably don't need to see this, Dad. You probably don't need this. And he told me, well, it's no worse than your lot. No worse than the strange cult you belong to. And that was my dad's opinion of spiritualism. In this life, he never accepted it. However, he did take his transition in 2006 to the spirit world, and he's been back many, many times. And now he recognises the reality of it, because he's there. He's reached that point where he sees with his own eyes he's still alive. And the message he brought back is, son, you were right and I was wrong. When you're dead, you're not dead. There is an afterlife. Absolutely. There is that afterlife. And Spirit wants us to know that here and now. They want us to have that knowledge here and now. They want us to think about it. They want it to change our lives. Spiritualism is meant to change us. Spiritualism is meant to touch our souls. Spiritualism is meant to invoke something within us, to make us think and see life differently. If all we think of as spiritualism as is going to receive a message from me mum, me dad, me auntie, me grandma, spiritualism is missing its point. That's like looking at the piece of ground in a beautiful scene. You're not seeing the whole picture. Spiritualism is not just about the message. Spiritualism is about the greater, unfolded picture that it gives us. So for me, spiritualism is something wonderful. For me, spiritualism is the best kept religious secret, and I would love spiritualism to be taught in schools, like many other religions. And we've just had the Census Day in the UK on the 21st of March, where we are all legally obliged within the UK to provide lots of information about ourselves, including our religion. And I was proud to write in the religion box that I am a spiritualist. I'm proud to carry that torch that our pioneers held high in getting recognition for the religion of spiritualism, in getting recognition for mediums, that we as mediums, when we work as a medium, it's a sacred act of religion. It's a sacred part of our religion. And for the Fraudulent Mediums Act, when it came out in 1951, it didn't apply to anything that was done for entertainment purposes only. And with TV and radio, they also brought in some language that if you ever brought forward spiritualism, you had to bring forward an opposing view, which is never applied to any other religion, but it still applies to spiritualism. If a story is run upon spiritualism, an opposing person has to come along and argue against it. But can you imagine that for songs of praise on a Sunday? All of a sudden we have someone coming along and arguing against Christianity. We wouldn't have that, would we? But as spiritualists, we still have these aspects that are not quite accepted, that we've got to still keep fighting for. So it's important that we do fight for it. And for me, I see a lot of mediums put on their websites that their work is for entertainment purposes only. Perhaps not understanding that there's no legal requirement to say that. None whatsoever. But for me, my work is never entertainment. My work for spirit is a sacred act. My work for spirit and mediumship is the living demonstration of spiritualism that Andrew Jackson Davis spoke about when he said, "Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born." And that living demonstration is that continuation of mediumship, that day in, day out, demonstrates the reality that we are eternal souls walking an eternal pathway. That day in, day out within our churches, we are showing yet again that living demonstration. And the purpose is to awaken us to our true nature. The purpose is to awaken us that we are spirit here and now, that this earthly journey is but one step of a much greater adventure. And I see certain mediums and certain areas of the world where spiritualism seems to be waning. People want to be mediums, but I don't want the religion. I don't want spiritualism. I hear certain mediums say, I want to do mediumship, but I don't want to be in any organisation, and I don't want to be classified as a spiritualist. But for me, spiritualism and mediumship are interlocked. For me, they go hand in hand. For me, mediumship was created through spiritualism, and spiritualism was created through mediumship. It's very hard to separate them. And when we do, each one loses the essence of the other. So for me, when people say to me now, you're a spiritualist medium, spiritualism, that's about life after death, isn't it? And mediumship, that's about talking to the dead, isn't it? I say no. Spiritualism is about life before death. And mediumship is about talking to the living. Because those in the spirit world already know the reality. Those in the spirit world, their eyes are already open to the true reality. It's those in this world we have to awaken. It's those in this world whose eyes need to be opened. It's those in this world who need to see that we are living souls, living spirits here and now. So I hope those words help in some way. If you found this video helpful, do hit the like button, do leave me a comment, and if you like the teachings and the videos I produce, do subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you all again in the next one.